All right, welcome to another deep dive. Today we're going to be looking into the world of Bob Camblin, an artist who, well, let's just say his life and his work were anything but ordinary.
Yeah, he definitely went his own way.
We've got a really interesting mix of stuff here to try to understand him. Quotes from Camblin himself, and let me tell you, those are a trip plus biographical info, reviews of books that feature his art, even a video that takes a close look at his painting called Christmas.
A real treasure trove.
So what we're going to do is, kind of sift through all this and try to figure out what made Camblin tick as an artist. What were the big ideas that kept popping up in his work?
Definitely. Always a good place to start. Camblin, by the way, was born way back in 1928. Sadly, he passed away sometime after a stroke. No exact date, though. But what we do know is that his work, well, it's highly sought after, even today. When a Camblin piece surfaces, it's gone.
Yeah, that's the mark of a real artist, isn't it? And you've got
Yeah.
all these sources for us.
Exactly. We've got quotes that are like, well, windows into his mind. Then we've got the biographical stuff that maps out his life, the critical reviews that kind of put his work in context, and that great analysis of Christmas.
Perfect. So let's dive into those quotes first. I'm really curious about what you've picked out. They're like little puzzles, but they hint at some pretty big ideas.
Yeah.
One of the things that really struck me is this tension he seems fascinated with between science and magic. It's like he sees them as two sides of the same coin.
Yeah, he doesn't want to choose a side, you know? It's like
Yeah.
he needs to keep that perfectly average perspective to really appreciate the wonder of it all.
And it's interesting because he also talks about the sixth sense being to be without a doubt. It's like he's saying intuition is just as valid, maybe even more valid than logic.
Right. That's why he's so hard to pin down, to categorize. It's like he wants us to engage with that space where reason and mystery, well, where they kind of blur together.
And this awareness of time passing, how fleeting everything is, man, that really comes through. That line, sad how we all aged at that moment in time, salt air summer 1967. Just beautiful, so evocative. And then like a punchline, he says, fortunately, some things remain forever, or another 10 years perhaps.
Classic Camblin, right? Acknowledging the longing for things to last, but then kind of winking at the whole idea. It's funny because, you look at his career and it's full of shifts and experimentation. Like he was constantly changing, evolving.
Maybe that's what he's getting at. If everything is temporary, you want to keep exploring, trying new things. And then you have this beautiful quote, find something in nature that completes you and then surrender.
Wow.
Right.
A real sense of connection there, humility, just letting go and becoming part of something bigger.
And this idea that art is not just images, art for art's sake has become art for life's sake, or art for my sake, or art for survival's sake. What do you make of that?
I think it points to how he saw art's purpose evolving, moving beyond just aesthetics, becoming something really essential to the human experience. He's saying art has to be more than just pretty pictures. It's got to speak to something deeper.
And those paradoxes he loves, right?
Right.
Balancing and being for and against. It's like he's comfortable holding two opposing ideas at the same time.
That's where the magic is, right? In the spaces between things where you have to hold multiple perspectives to see the whole picture. It's a very Zen way of thinking.
Totally. And it's funny because he often seems to be encouraging us to just like not think so much. When you think, don't act. When you act, don't think. Just do it.
Intuition over intellect. That's a theme we see a lot in his work. And, his take on communication is interesting, too. If you argue or if you agree, you may learn, but you do not communicate. What do you think he meant by that?
It's a tough one. But I think he's saying true communication is about something more than just exchanging information or trying to convince someone you're right. Maybe it's about a deeper kind of understanding, a connection that goes beyond words.
Yeah, that resonates with me. And when he talks about change, how revolution can be a misunderstanding, while evolution is about understanding, it's a really interesting way to look at how society shifts, how we grow.
I love those little haiku-like quotes that he throws into, like this one. The cosmos waves as me with tree leaves. So simple, yet so profound, right?
And then, right after that deep thought, he hits us with, well, that's enough about me, Mother Nature. Let's talk about you. What did you think of my last picture?
Huh? Classic Camblin. You can't help but smile, right? That little bit of humor really keeps things from getting too heavy.
Absolutely. It reminds us not to take ourselves too seriously.
But then he throws in this thought-provoking line. As people move away from us, do they diminish in our eyes, or mind, or relativity? That's deep, man. What do you make of that?
It makes you think about how distance affects our relationships, not just physically, but emotionally and even intellectually. Do we really see people the same way when they're not right in front of us?
And this whole concept of stepping off the train of thought, finding power in that. It's almost like he's giving us a mindfulness exercise,
Right,
right?
absolutely. Disengaging from that constant stream of thoughts, just being present in the moment, that's where true clarity often lies.
Then you have those quotes where he really delves into this idea of belief versus knowing, like this one. Mystics know something else. They remain connected to a faith or abandon it, but they have been somewhere and logic won't make the trip.
It's like he's saying there are certain truths you can only access through experience, through intuition, maybe even through some kind of spiritual journey. Logic can only take you so far.
I mean, it's like he's challenging us to look beyond the rational, to open ourselves up to different ways of knowing.
And his views on creativity losing the magic by trying to understand it too much, the importance of knowing rather than just understanding, it's a really important message for artists, for anyone engaged in creative work, really.
Don't overthink it. Sometimes you just got to trust your gut and let the magic happen.
Exactly. And even his paradox about learning, right? One must try to fail in order to succeed. It's such a powerful reminder that failure is a part of the process. It's where you learn the most.
This one really resonated with me. Everyone is a mirror, and that is magic. It's like he's saying we can see ourselves reflected in other people, and they can see themselves in us.
It's a beautiful way to think about interconnectedness, how we're all kind of part of this larger web of being.
Totally. And then it makes this really important distinction between two kinds of magic for power, which he sees as negative, and magic for seeing, which is positive. And he connects this magic for seeing to deeper understanding and art that's tied to the endless part of life.
It's like he's saying true art isn't about manipulating or controlling. It's about opening yourself up to something larger, something timeless.
And his awareness of the disposable art culture, how artists are often caught between mastering their craft and just trying to be new and different. It's something that's so relevant today, even who's saying this decades ago.
Yeah, it's a constant tension, isn't it? Trying to stay true to yourself while also navigating the demands of the market. And I love his reference to the symbolists who believed that in explaining something, it was killed.
It's like that old saying, the Tao that can be spoken is not the eternal Tao. Sometimes the most profound things can't be put into words.
Exactly. You have to experience them, feel them to truly understand.
In his later quotes, you get this sense of him embracing a more accepting and intuitive way of being. No mistakes, trusting your instincts, making the best of things. It's like a philosophy of life distilled into these little phrases.
Yeah, like he's found a kind of peace with himself and with the world.
But then he throws in this curveball. Loss of pride causes the fall, too much pride causes the fall causes loss of pride, the fall causes too much pride. It's like he's saying pride can be both the cause and the effect of failure, this crazy cycle.
It's a very insightful observation on human nature. And then you have this really intriguing concept of the hologram, this idea that collective clarity emerges when we come together, like all the pieces of a hologram creating a whole image.
It's almost a utopian vision of shared understanding, right? What do you think he meant by that?
I think he was suggesting that true understanding doesn't come from individual perspectives alone. It comes from the interaction, the interconnectedness of many minds working together.
That's a powerful thought.
Yeah.
And his poetic observation on time and history, to dream of how it works, it's so beautifully human, this desire to make sense of our place in the grand scheme of things.
We're all trying to figure it out, aren't we? And then you have those natural metaphors. He uses the hawk and the snake representing two different approaches to life.
The active hunter versus the patient observer. It's like he's saying both are valid ways of being in the world. And that cyclical view of existence, a cycle, a beginning and ending the next step. It's a reminder that everything is in constant flux, that endings are just new beginnings in disguise.
Very much in line with Eastern philosophies, right? Birth, death, and rebirth. It's a constant cycle.
In the way he connects Lou Sullivan's idea of honor to both a blessing and a curse, it really makes you think about the complexities of living with integrity, the potential consequences.
Yeah, sometimes doing the right thing can come at a cost. But Camblin, I think, he'd argue that it's still worth it.
And his playful embrace of dolce far niente. Carefree idleness? It's almost like he's saying sometimes you just got to let go, relax, and allow things to unfold.
That's not laziness, that's about creating space for creativity and inspiration.
And this really powerful image of the phoenix frozen in a salty shell, trapped potential, and his realization that the living was the meaning. It's about finding joy and purpose in the present moment, not waiting for some future transformation.
That's a profound insight, especially considering his own life journey, all the changes and challenges he went through.
And finally, To end with a bang, his quote about the universe folding back in on itself billions of years from now, it just blows your mind, right? Puts everything into perspective.
It's a reminder of the vastness of time and space, how incredibly small and insignificant our individual worries really are. All right, so we spent a lot of time with these quotes, but let's move on to that painting called Christmas, which you have a lot of info about.
You've got a YouTube video transcript and an excerpt from a book,
Okay.
both of which, really unpack this piece. So what are we looking at? What's the painting like?
Okay, so imagine a piece of weathered wood, like driftwood that's been tossed around by the ocean for years.
Got it.
Now, picture various objects attached to this wood: a seashell, some dried oak leaves, a bright red ribbon.
Okay, I'm starting to see it.
There's also a crab claw, and get this, a face sketched on a torn piece of paper. And then, written on the wood itself is the word Christmas.
Christmas. That's interesting. So how does this all tie into the Zen interpretation you've got?
Well, in Zen, there's this idea that clinging to things, whether it's possessions, memories, even emotions, causes suffering. So those objects pinned to the wood, they symbolize all the things we hold on to, things that are ultimately temporary. And the weathered wood itself, that's like the enduring present moment.
Ah, I see. So the painting is like a visual representation of the cluttered mind, all those distractions that keep us from experiencing true clarity and peace.
Exactly. And it's a call to let go of those attachments, to find freedom in the present moment.
And there's also a connection to the I Ching's hexagram 23, splitting apart. It talks about a time of disintegration, breaking down old patterns.
Mm.
The painting, with those loosely attached objects, seems to really echo that idea.
It's a powerful metaphor for the cyclical nature of life, how things come together and then fall apart, making space for something new to emerge. And the Tao Te Ching interpretation emphasizes simplicity and naturalness, which we can see in the weathered wood. All those added objects, they represent the distractions and complexities that we layer onto our lives.
The Tao Te Ching is all about stripping away the superfluous to reveal the essence,
Yeah.
right? It's like, true richness lies not in what you acquire, but in aligning with the natural flow of things.
Precisely. And the mindfulness aspect, too, just observing those objects, those stories we tell ourselves, without judgment, without attachment.
Just being present with what is, right?
And the painting doesn't just present these ideas, it asks questions, too. What do I pin to my tree? What aspects of your life can you release? How does the past shape my present? It invites us to really reflect.
I love how interactive it is. And you've also mentioned connections to surrealism and symbolism.
Yeah, the symbolic use of those everyday objects, that tactile quality, reminiscent of collage artists like Cornell and Rauschenberg, it definitely puts Camblin's work in conversation with those movements.
And that personal touch, the autobiographical elements that are hinted at, it's like he's inviting us into his own inner world while also giving us space to find our own meaning in the piece.
It's a really beautiful balance, isn't it?
Yeah.
So even from this one painting, Christmas, we see all these major themes emerging: impermanence, attachment, the search for clarity, the connection to nature, and that invitation for deep personal reflection.
Wow, so much to unpack. Okay, so let's shift gears a bit and look at Camblin's life as a whole, how he evolved as an artist.
Sounds good.
He was born in 1928 in Oklahoma. His parents were both artists, and he even served as the art director for his high school yearbook. Clearly, art was a big part of his life from the beginning.
Yeah, and his upbringing in Ponca City, those iconic images of the Marland Estate and the Pioneer Woman's statue, you can definitely see their influence in some of his later work.
And that incredible friendship with Forrest Harrisberger, they met in high school art class and stayed close for like 66 years. That's amazing.
And you can tell from the sources that their shared love of drawing, Camblin's voracious reading, Emerson, the I Ching, all those haikus, it really shaped his thinking and his artistic development.
They even served in the Air Force Reserve together, sketching the California coastline. Those shared experiences must have had a profound impact on them both. And then, of course, there's that pivotal Fulbright scholarship to Italy.
Italy was a turning point for Camblin. He was deeply moved by the Uffizi Gallery, but also by the Catacombe Tappercini, those underground tombs with all the mummies. He said he felt like he might never escape them. It really got under his skin.
It's fascinating how he could synthesize those historical influences, like Botticelli's Birth of Venus and Primavera, with his own contemporary experiences and ideas.
Yeah, he wasn't just copying, he was transforming. And after Italy, he came back and taught at several universities before making that radical decision to become a nomadic artist in 1976.
What a huge life change. Leaving the stability of academia to just wander and create. It says a lot about his dedication to his art.
It was like he needed that freedom, that direct experience of the world to fuel his creative fire. And those early drawings and writings collected in Zen and the Art of Enlightenment, Volume 1, works he never intended for anyone to see. They give us such an intimate glimpse into his creative process during those formative years.
And his artistic philosophy, the idea that art transcends criticism and commercialism, that it speaks directly to the soul,
Yeah.
it really aligns with everything we've seen in his quotes.
Absolutely. He believed that art had a higher purpose, that it wasn't just about making money or pleasing critics.
He did get some recognition, though, even if it wasn't his main focus.
Mhm.
Charlotte Moser, she noted how his style was constantly shifting. And Eleanor Freed, she pointed out his fascination with the life cycle. They both saw him as this ever-evolving artist.
And then there's his pioneering of Mouché's volantes in the 1970s, these drawings that create optical illusions and actually invite the viewer to participate in the experience.
It's like he's playing with perception, making us question what we're seeing. And those collaborative events with Earl Staley and Joe Tate under their B&E Productions banner, like the tattoo show, back when tattoos were still pretty edgy.
He was a real innovator, pushing boundaries and collaborating with other artists to create these really unique, immersive experiences. And his habit of sometimes signing his work anonymous. What do you make of that?
It's like he's saying the art is more important than the ego.
Yeah.
It's not about him, it's about the work itself.
It's a really powerful statement, especially in a world where artists are often so focused on branding themselves.
And you can see his versatility in those later series like Big Al and Descent from the Cross. He wasn't afraid to explore different themes and mediums. And the recurring motifs of metamorphosis, puppets, scarecrows, often inspired by literature. It all adds to the richness and complexity of his work.
He was drawing on so many different sources, literature, philosophy, his own life experiences, and then weaving them together into these really intricate, layered pieces.
And you see this consistent thread of hidden meanings, puzzles, almost like he's challenging the viewer to dig deeper, to engage in a kind of active dialogue with the work.
Yeah, he definitely didn't want us to just passively consume his art. He wanted us to think, to question, to discover something for ourselves.
And I love that quote about his approach. If you think it's funny, I'll get serious. And if you think it's serious, I'll make a joke of it.
He always kept us guessing, always kept things interesting. So, to sum it up, Bob Camblin was an innovator, a rule breaker, a deep thinker, and a bit of a trickster.
He was all those things and more. Okay, we've talked about his life, his philosophy, his art, but let's dive into those books you mentioned, starting with The Art of Everything.
Sure. So the review we have describes the book as this exploration of art as questions and philosophy as incomplete answers. It positions Camblin's drawings as paradoxes made visible and blueprints for ideas.
I love that. It's like his art is a springboard for contemplation, not a source of easy answers.
Exactly. And the way he uses ordinary objects like a figure four trap, a tattooed arm, even a frog to symbolize deeper concepts. It's really brilliant.
Those everyday things become these potent metaphors for things like fear, time, the stories we carry with us.
And that theme of illusion, those vanishing acts, they really highlight the idea of impermanence, how everything is constantly changing.
And then there's this really interesting exploration of the concept of traps, the different ways we can get caught or stuck in life, whether it's by fear, by our own habits, by time itself.
Those traps become these visual representations of the forces that shape our lives, often forces we're not even aware of.
And the way stillness is presented, is it peace or is it stagnation? That ambiguity is so typical of Camblin. He doesn't give us a simple answer.
The review emphasizes that the book is full of questions and riddles, which, is perfect for Camblin. He was all about challenging our assumptions, making us think for ourselves.
Now let's move on to Zen and the Art of Enlightenment. This one sounds like a deep dive into the connections between Camblin's work and Eastern philosophy.
Exactly. The foreword explains how the book looks at art through the lens of historical movements, exploring how those movements resonate with Zen and the I Ching. It's about intuition, interconnectedness, the cyclical nature of things, all those themes we've been talking about.
And it positions Camblin's work as this bridge between abstraction and symbolic motifs, merging ancient wisdom with modern art.
And the book talks about art as this portal to heightened awareness, and the act of looking as an ekphrastic dialogue, a conversation, really that prompts introspection.
So it's not just about admiring the art, it's about using it as a tool for self-discovery.
Right. The book even suggests using I Ching hexagrams to guide interpretation, highlighting those archetypal themes that emerge.
I love that idea. And the emphasis on embracing change, seeing it as a natural part of the inner landscape, it's very Zen, very much in line with Camblin's philosophy.
Absolutely. The book is designed to be this silent, personal dialogue with Camblin's work, a catalyst for both psychological and spiritual growth.
It sounds like a powerful and moving experience. Now, finally, those quotes from people who knew Camblin, they really round out the picture, don't they?
Oh, yeah, those quotes really bring him to life. Pete Gershon called him a mystical trickster figure. I love that description. And Giorgio Jackson Jr., he said that looking at Camblin's art was like reading a book. He also talked about Camblin's dedication to purity, both in his art and in his life.
And Earl Staley? He was Camblin's friend and collaborator for many years. He credits Camblin with teaching him how to draw and compose, calling him a creative force.
And Tenny Serling, she said that Camblin questioned everything and loved collaborating with other artists. Carolyn Farb, she saw his work as deeply personal, autobiographical, and full of joy. And the Southwestern Historical Quarterly, they mentioned that his biography offers a great balance between his art and his personal life.
And then there's Earl Staley's longer remembrance, which is really touching. He talks about how quickly they became friends, their shared studio B&E productions, those wild art shows they put on together. They even started a construction project without permits. Classic Camblin. And Staley describes Camblin's studio later in life as this wizard's den, filled with all sorts of curious objects.
It's such a vivid image, right? And then there's his Mr. Peanut persona. It's like he always had this playful, mischievous side.
It sounds like they had an incredible friendship. And it's bittersweet to hear about those unsuccessful attempts to get his work shown in a Houston museum later in life. It's like he was this hidden gem that never quite got the recognition he deserved.
Maybe that's part of his mystique, though.
Perhaps. So to bring this all together, Bob Camblin was a truly unique artist, a deep thinker, and a fascinating individual.
Absolutely. His art, his philosophy, his life, it's all intertwined. And it's full of these layers of meaning, these paradoxes, these invitations to think differently, to see the world with fresh eyes.
His work really challenges us to slow down, to look closer, to question our assumptions, and to appreciate the beauty and mystery that exists in the everyday.
And in a world that's so often focused on the superficial, on quick answers and instant gratification, I think that's a really powerful message.
I couldn't agree more. So if you're intrigued by what you've heard today, we highly encourage you to check out the books we mentioned, or just do a quick Google search and see what images of Camblin's work pop up.
You won't be disappointed.
So our final thoughts for you, inspired by Camblin himself, what train of thought might you consider stepping off today? You never know what you might discover when you allow yourself to wander off the beaten path.
That's something to think about.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
Until next time.